Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and today I'm taking you to the Ultra League, where I'm trying out one of the most expensive Pokemon in the Ultra League for the very first time, and that is XL Turtonator. Now, Turtonator needs 296 XL candies to max it out for the Ultra League, and there isn't a good way to get them. Turtonator does not spawn in the wild, so you have to either hatch a ton of eggs, do a monster amount of raids, or occasionally it's in research. However, recently at the Pittsburgh Regional Championships that I casted, Turtonator for the first time was a wild spawn, so I was able to get those XL candies so we can try it out. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches. And in game number 1, we pick up a pretty okay lead, leading Turtonator into Empoleon. Empoleon is going to have a pacing advantage, but they're only going to hit for neutral damage with the Hydro Cannon. So Turtonator shrugs off the damage and now looks to lock in a knockout with an Overheat. Empoleon is so strong into the backline of this team, so getting rid of it would be very nice, but unfortunately my opponent is not going to let me get away with that so easily. They shield up, get the shield back with the Hydro Cannon, and now I'm going for a -2 Overheat. This Overheat will not be able to knock out, but it will get them low enough that I can switch into the Kyurem to make a catch on the Hydro Cannon. The Empoleon is basically neutralized, which is great news for me, because neither Kyurem nor Florges wants to see this Pokemon, and out comes Confusion Cresselia. Confusion obviously got a big buff at the start of the season. Cresselia is monstrously bulky, but it takes big damage from Draco Meteor. Kyurem will finally get knocked out, but it put up some very nice damage onto my opponent. In comes Florges. Florges gonna look to shield and then overfarm quite significantly. I would love to be able to Fairy Wind this into a range where Chilling Water can knock out, but unfortunately with how bulky Cresselia is, I don't think this is going to be able to pick up the knockout. The good news is if they survive, they're going to be at -1 attack, so they bank a move, and in comes Unova Stunfisk. Stunfisk, a pretty bad matchup for the opponent here, as they're going to get consistently debuffed by Chilling Water. However, the worry is they can stall the Switch Clock and then snipe me with the Grass Knot once they've gotten Florges into range. So Stunfisk now at -2 attack, goes for the Mud Bomb, and that does absolutely nothing. I'm going to overfarm waiting for them to throw, but they're overfarming as well. They want to just switch out, reset the debuff, and combo play me with the Grass Knot. So I'm going to predict it. In comes Turtonator, and there is the snipe attempt. Cresselia's Grass Knot does not land on its intended target. Instead, it lands on a Turtonator where it's double resisted. In comes Stunfisk, 1 Thundershock, and the move means my Incinerate will not register. Stunfisk does have the back-to-back Mud Bombs, so unfortunately, I'm going to get hit with a move. However, the good news for me is that Florges is very bulky. I can withstand that damage. The Empoleon is basically at 1 HP. Can I survive a Metal Sound? It's going to be close. Florges survives, and that's a good game. Hopping into the next match, leading Turtonator into Galarian Moltres. 2 better answers in the back, so I'm going to save switch into Kyurem. And the fact that they're not switching out, I can actually throw the Glaciate instantly, as due to the 1-turn switch, that will be on perfect timing. My opponent does not build up to a Brave Bird, so I don't really have a need to shield this. Instead, I'm more than happy just to let the Kyurem go and watch for a switch out. There's the switch out into Confusion Cresselia, and Cresselia, for the second game in a row, is getting smacked with a Draco Meteor. Switch Clock comes up, I'm able to defer the Confusion onto Turtonator and save the Kyurem in case I need it for a catch later in the game. Turtonator gonna only take neutral damage from Moonblast. I'm looking to farm up quite a bit of energy and then hopefully take the knockout with Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw is gonna land, down goes Cresselia, and back in comes Galarian Moltres. Moltres going to have to take quite a bit of damage from the Dragon Claw. Moltres puts up the shield, Switch Claw just comes up, but unfortunately I was mid-Incinerate. I decided to protect the Turtonator. It's Florges time, but in the back is Credilli, and that's not what I was hoping to see whatsoever. Credilli is going to be hit with a Moonblast before they get the debuff off due to the fact that they were behind on energy. But unfortunately, with that debuff now getting applied, I'm not sure if a Moonblast will actually knock out. So I think what I'm going to have to do is actually just overfarm a ton of energy and then try and switch out into the Turtonator. So I shield up the Rock Tomb, Switch Clock's up, in comes the Turtonator. They bring in Galarian Moltres. I throw at the last second, but they're going to fire off the fly first. I needed to, if I took the knockout, limit the amount of farm that Credilli got. But by them taking the knockout with the fly, I should be okay as long as I farm to 100 energy. Because Chilling Water will knock out the Moltres, and I should be 1 off the Moonblast into Credilli, and that is going to secure it. Maybe if I had just thrown the double Moonblast, I would have won the game. But the good news is we're able to get the win either way. Hopping into the next match, leading Turtonator into Corviknight. This is a very good lead for Turtonator. Opponent safe switches into Primeape, and I immediately respond with Florges. One downside of leading an Incinerate user is your counter switches are always going to be very, very slow, because unless you pause the turn and don't throw the Incinerate, you're always going to be 4 turns behind. And in a matchup like Primeape versus Florges, that's actually quite problematic. I go for the Chilling Water right off the bat, just to apply the attack drop, but unfortunately, I don't think that I survive this Rage Fist, and this is going to force me to go down a shield in a winning matchup, and that's all due to the fact that I was leading with a 5-turn fast move. It's one of the reasons why I don't often run teams that lead with long turn duration fast moves, because most of the time, I really dislike the fact that it kind of limits how fast you can switch into your counter swap. Chilling Water number 2 is going to connect onto the Corviknight, and because I overfarmed by 1 on the first one, I'm actually able to make it to a second Chilling Water. My opponent was looking to throw 9 in the move there. Now they are so heavily debuffed, they're only doing 1 damage per sand attack, they cannot farm down, and Air Cutter will take the knockout. In comes Turtonator, in the back is Kyurem, and this is going to be an awkward game. I think maybe after the first Incinerate, I should have just switched into my Kyurem instantly, as now I am behind on energy by quite a bit. However, if I can call a Glaciate, maybe I can get back in this game. Glaciate is going to be no-shielded, and I think now there's a chance. Because with this Glaciate debuff, I don't think my opponent can farm me down. It is going to be pretty close. I think I am going to get there, and my opponent thinks so as well. So they'll fire off the Glaciate. Glaciate will take the knockout, and back in comes the Turtonator. Turtonator able to get some pretty nice Incinerate damage onto this Kyurem. Kyurem lands the Glaciate, and there is the switch into Corviknight. They have so much energy on Corviknight. I shield up, it's going to be the payback, and that's a big shield. I can only throw 1 Incinerate, as if I do 2, then they're guaranteed to make it to an Air Cutter. Dragon Claw is resisted, but it will knock out. In comes the Kyurem. Incinerate doesn't KO. They survive on 1 HP to clutch a dramatic win. We move to the next match, and we've got a great lead that's not switching out, as I lead Turtonator into Virizion. Virizion is often paired with a Thundershock Belly Bolt in the back, and Thundershock Belly Bolt would also get crushed by Turtonator. So I stay in, fire off the Overheat, and the moment they send out the Thundershock Belly Bolt, I pivot into Kyurem. I'm going to look to overfarm. I'll throw the Glaciate right as they make it to a Zap Cannon, so this way if they stay in to throw energy, they're going to be debuffed. And just like that, they've already lost so much health on this Belly Bolt. Belly Bolt Zap Cannon is going to land in the back. They have another electric type. It's Shadow Ampharos, so they were actually triple weak to the Turtle. Turtonator putting in some pretty nice work in the early game, and now Kyurem will just get to absolutely crush this double electric backline. Glaciate after Glaciate is going to land. I predict when they throw, and I'm going to get the catch onto Florges. It is going to be a catch of a double debuff Brutal Swing. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. Turtonator into Corviknight, great lead. Opponent safe switches into Credilli. And again, this is another spot where having the Incinerator on the lead is really, really bad, because I can't switch fast enough to outpace that Credilli, and that forces me to have to burn a shield. So again, down a shield in a mid-game due to the fact that Incinerate is very, very slow. The good news is I do have a pretty significant pacing advantage with the Kyurem, so I get to a second Glaciate, and that will be able to take the knockout even with the debuff. Back in comes Corviknight. Corviknight did not build up to a payback, so I do not have to respect it. Corviknight is on Iron Head. Look at the spice, and unfortunately I get knocked out. In the back is Regidrago, and we are just in prime position with Florges. I'm always going to fire off the Chilling Water, as even if they call it, debuffing them means I'm going to tank their Hyper Beam significantly better. So they end up putting up the shield on the bait, which is awesome. There's the Hyper Beam, and that would have actually done huge damage to Florges if it landed. I don't want to risk going for a bait a second time. So this time I'm actually going to be full sending the Moonblast, but my opponent will end up shielding. However, I should still be in a winning position as long as I just save the shield for Turtonator. Hyper Beam lands, picking up the knockout. In comes Turtonator. I tried to wait to see if they switch, which is a bit of a fool's errand against a one-turn fast move, and they end up getting the catch onto Corviknight. The good news is I should still be able to take home this win because I can just double up on Dragon Claws, and the Incinerate damage should do enough that the Dragon Claw will actually knock out. So I'm very, very low on the Turtonator, but I'm not in one Dragon Breath range, which is what my opponent would need to take home the win. So back in comes the Regidrago. We have the back-to-back Dragon Claws loaded. That takes the knockout, and we're able to get the win. Moving to the next match, Turtonator once again greeted by a Corviknight. Turtonator, a big fan of the Corviknight leads, but that Cornelius save switch and the slow switch into the Kyurem due to the Incinerate is again going to force me to go down a shield early. I will be able to recover nicely from the fact that I have to go down a shield by making the 2 Glaciates before they get their second Rock Tomb, but it still can make life quite uncomfortable. As ideally, considering that I have pretty favorable alignment throughout this game, the fact that I have to go down a shield is definitely not ideal. Glaciate will pick up the knockout, back in comes Corviknight. Corviknight farming up. This time, no Iron Head shenanigans to speak of, so I will fire off the Glaciate right before they get the payback. This is probably going to be the payback from the opponent, but at -1, it's not nearly as threatening as it typically would be. Here, I should have thrown the Glaciate instantly, because maybe that could let me get to a second Glaciate here, but it's going to be very close. Kyurem actually does barely hang on, so I stand corrected. We actually get this other Glaciate barely. I switch into Florges as they send out Gastrodon. Gastrodon, definitely not what I'm hoping to see in the back, as being down a shield, this is going to be difficult. Florges in the Ultra League does not run Trailblaze. If I had Trailblaze, this would be a pretty straightforward win, but unfortunately, I do not. I throw the Chilling Water, and this is an Earth Power Gastrodon. That's even worse, as Earth Power will actually hit for a super effective into the Turtonator. My opponent no-shielded the first Chilling, but they end up shielding the second, which works out pretty okay for me. If I can just get them incredibly debuffed, I should be able to just switch in the Turtonator and be okay to win this game, as Turtonator wins charge attack priority over the Gastrodon. Chilling Water gets called, nice call from my opponent, and now I'm going to get their Gastrodon to -4 attack. Now they can't really do anything. I send in the Turtonator, they're going to pivot, and out comes Corviknight. Corviknight gets a payback, but that's not going to be enough to knock out. We exit with the Dragon Claw, and we lose charge attack priority. I looked this up after the fact. If they have like a Hundo Gastrodon, they can win charge attack priority over Turtonator. Usually, Gastrodon should always lose that cap tie, but it appears they have an incredibly poor IV Gastrodon, which actually turns that game from a loss for them into a tie. We see a bit of a spicy lead in the next match. Cool pick from the opponent as I lead Turtonator into Melmetal. Melmetal probably on Rock Slide if they're staying in, and Rock Slide does do massive damage to the turtle. Turtonator, not gonna bait. A Dragon Claw to me feels too risky, so I full send the Overheat, and my opponent is gonna put up a shield. Considering I'm pretty soft in the back to Melmetal, I'm pretty happy to catch a Steel type on the lead. Rock Slide does get shielded. I'm worried that a -2 Dragon Claw will not knock out, so I'm just gonna go for the Overheat. And basically, no matter what they send in, I'm gonna bring in Kyurem. Opponent sent in Zygarde, so this works out amazingly. Before they can even get to a crunch, I already have a Glaciate. This is double super effective damage, and just like that, they lose almost their entire Zygarde. They don't even build up to the outrage, so I never have to respect it. It is going to be a crunch, and in the back, look at the spice. It's a Shadow Victory Bell XL. Oh my goodness. This opponent absolutely flexing on me. You love to see it. They will get to take the knockout with the Leaf Blade, but now it's Turtonator time. Turtonator just going to look for the full Incinerate farmed out. I want to overheat the Zygarde, but no, they resign the match, and I'm unable to get that overheat. We see a very neutral lead in the next match, Turtonator into Togekiss. Now, Togekiss is a bit awkward just because it has very, very good pacing. Togekiss throws on 9 instead of 7, so they do concede 2 free turns. That should allow me to actually undertap the Overheat and then send in Kyurem. As long as they don't have more than 5 residual, which is the exact amount they have, then Kyurem's going to be in a winning matchup here, as Kyurem will be very okay to shield up the Aura Sphere and outpace by a singular turn, getting to the Glaciate before they get their Aura Sphere. So Glaciate is going to put pressure on the final shield. Opponent is going to put up that shield, and now I'm very happy as Kyurem to shield right back. They're probably going to look to pivot out of here, and there it is. In comes Shadow Dusknoir. Shadow Dusknoir does not build up to Dynamic Punch. Shadow Punch will not be enough to knock out here, so I will be able to hang on and fire off the last second Glaciate. Glaciate will not be enough to knock out the Dusknoir, but it will get it pretty low. I send in the Turtonator just to get an Incinerate of damage to make this farm down for Florges easier. Now, Florges gets to catch the Shadow Punch, and I'll get a big energy head start. I really like Florges in the zeros. In comes Togekiss, and let's just knock out the Togekiss before they can even make it to a Psyshock. Moonblast lands, picking up the KO. In the back, What do you know? It's another Gastrodon. I'm going to immediately apply the debuff with Chilling Water. I know I'm very close to a move on Turtonator, and if I debuff them enough, then I should be okay to survive a Water Pulse. So I fire off another Chilling Water. That's going to put them at -2. In comes the Turtonator, and they fire off their energy. If it's Water Pulse, we survive, but it's another one on Earth Power. So Trainer's not running the new moveset in the Ultra League, and unfortunately that's bad news for me, because Earth Power is super effective damage, and unfortunately we will lose that game. Hopping into the final match, leading Turtonator into Shadow Malamar. Shadow Malamar has incredibly strong neutrals, so this is always a very scary Pokemon to encounter. I'm going to go for the Dragon Claw. Opponent makes a beautiful catch, predicting that I will not overheat, and they catch onto Togekiss. That's a very nice play from my opponent. I can't send in the Kyurem because I'm down on energy, so I'm forced to bring out the Florges instead. I'm hoping that with the Incinerate that landed, I can potentially farm them into Moonblast range, but the moment I throw the move, I know this is just not going to be enough to knock out. The Moonblast lands, Togekiss hangs on, and they will get an Aura Sphere. Aura Sphere is going to land, and that does some solid damage. In comes a Volt Switch Shadow Fortress, and I have an Incinerate user, so I'm very happy to see this Fortress. I get a debuff applied, I send in Turtonator, and I bluff the Overheat. I don't want to lower my attack just yet, but it's successful as I'm able to grab a shield from my opponent. They're going to be able to lower my attack with Rock Tomb. I don't think the next Incinerate will knock out, so I'll just snipe it with Dragon Breaths. I send in the Kyurem, and my opponent gets damage registration error. The Dragon Breath is supposed to knock out there, but unfortunately it did not. And due to that game error, what should have been a pretty straightforward win now could be a loss. I do have a move banked on the Turtonator, but I'm so low. And unfortunately, Malamar is going to outpace me. If Malamar takes the knockout, I don't really see a path forward. Malamar doesn't throw the move. Instead, they catch onto Togekiss, and I might be back in this. If I can snipe, it's going to be close. I throw a few Dragon Breaths, switch into the Turtonator, and I get it right. I get the snipe, Dragon Claw knocks out the Malamar, and we escape with an incredibly close win. All in all, I had an absolute blast getting to run this team. Turtonator by no means is Ultra League meta. It's a pick for fun rather than for climbing. It's a pick that honestly really thrives in a lot of the Ultra League limited metas. But obviously, without having an Ultra League limited meta, I still wanted to play it, so I figured I would give it a go. Now this team, across the several sets that I ran with it, I believe I went about even in terms of my win-loss rate. So overall, I'm pretty happy running something as spicy as Turtonator, being able to go about even. My battles took place in the upper 2800s to mid 2800s, as I ended up having to tank quite a bit from Legend just to try and get opponents in the Ultra League. And it looks like around the 2800 elo range, you can get pretty okay queues as far as the Ultra League goes. So all in all, I had an absolute blast with the team. Turtonator, it's a really difficult Pokemon to get XL candies for. Luckily, it's not a must-have Pokemon for the Ultra League by any means. It's definitely on the spicier side of things, so if you don't have an XL Turtonator, it's not like you're missing out on a lot. But it was fun trying to solve some creative end games with this team and figure out ways to win with the very spicy Fire Turtle. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy watching content like this, please do consider leaving a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is genuinely so appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.